What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Ideal Offseason. This is the series where I get to put the GM cap on for a little bit and take over a different NBA team in each episode, and we try to help them navigate what this potential offseason could look like. And now, this is different for every single team that we do. If this is a not-so-good team, take like the San Antonio Spurs or something, it's not about winning a championship. It's how do we make them marginally better and help them set up for longer-term success. If it's a team like the Golden State Warriors, it's obviously trying to win a championship, and today we've got a team that just got bounced from the playoffs. We try to make this series as realistic as possible. Obviously, maybe you think that this is a stretch or this is a stretch, but I'm trying to make this as real as possible for you guys. But before we jump into it, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. But let's get into this video. You guys don't want to hear me talk about this anymore. And so we're back here on the Ideal Offseason spreadsheet. This is a little thing that I threw together to kind of help with this whole series or whatever. If you guys are interested in the spreadsheet, which a lot of you guys are, I think I've given out like 50 or 60 people access to this at this point. Basically, just leave a comment saying you want access to the spreadsheet. I'll send you an invite to my Discord. You shoot me a DM on there. Yes, this is all a marketing ploy to get you guys on my Discord. You figured it out. Then I just give you access to the spreadsheet. Super cool, super fun. A lot of people have been sending me like their own stuff on here, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of nice that we can do that on here. But anyway, Cleveland Cavaliers today, the team that just got bounced. We've been waiting for teams to get bounced if they were in the playoffs because their offseason hasn't started yet. And man, there's already been a ton of talk about what the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to be doing this offseason, and it's all centered around these two guys here, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. I had a much different plan last night when they got bounced as to what I thought I was going to do for this video. But now the news has surfaced via Shams and everybody else that Darius Garland is like, hey, if you guys are giving Donovan an extension, I really don't care to be here. And Donovan Mitchell apparently is like, hey, I'm not really kicking it with some of these dudes anyway. Like, we need to shake some things up. So now I'm left with this conundrum, right? Of like, okay, I need to look at these two guards who maybe it isn't the best fit. Like, offensively, in an ideal world, I look at it and I'm like, okay, no, we can make it work. These guys are both very talented offensively. They can both put the ball on the ground. They're both really good, like, all-star level basketball players. It gets hard sometimes when both want to be the primary ball handler, but you can figure that stuff out, even though teams don't like to be in these team-centric offenses even anymore, even though those are the teams that are winning, are the teams that are actually running that stuff. Defensively, it's tough. They're small, and like, yes, they can be as pesty as they want, but as soon as the ball starts swinging like it does in like a Celtics game or something like that, the size hurts. You guys get momentum going towards the hoop. They can shoot over you. There's a lot that goes into it. So we're going to be talking about these two primarily and how we can retool the team around both of them, just one of them. I can tell you right now we're going to probably try to move one of them, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let's talk about just like Cleveland's situation in general going into this offseason. So this is what they currently have going for them going into the 2024-2025 offseason. They're already in the luxury tax, which is not the worst thing in the world. It's a very, very good basketball team. You've got Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Emo, Jared Allen. Really good basketball team. And I know some people will say like, oh, like you got to tear this down, you got to do this. Look, y'all, it's hard to find a lot of talent. It's really hard. And trading like one good player isn't always going to get you a good player in return. A lot of times you're going to get something worse than that. I want to keep as much of this team together as possible because it's just hard to accumulate this much like talent that's not like aging or something like that, right? Like these guys are like all in their primes right now. So I want to figure out a way to retool this roster to make it more competitive and maybe a bit more cohesive. But we're going to have to make trades to make that happen because we're in the luxury cap space. Draft picks. We do have the 20th pick in this year's draft, and then after that you'll notice there are no more first round draft picks because all of them are gone. All of them went to, where did they go? Did they go to Utah? Yeah, they went to Utah in the Donovan Mitchell trade, and probably somewhere else at some other point along the line, maybe in like Jared Allen signed here, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into all of that, but this is our last first round pick. I'm going to try to keep it as possible, or if possible, because it'd be nice, I think, to bring in a guy that can maybe contribute right away at like the 20th pick, because I think that's what this draft can do. It can give us somebody on a cheap contract that we'll get for like 4 years that can maybe come in and be an impact player for us right away at a position that we could use. So we'll keep an eye on that. If we have to trade it to make the team better, we have to. But let's take a look at the roster overall. So we've got everything going on here with Garland, Mitchell, Jared Allen. They're locked up. Karis LeVert's in the last year of his contract, and I'm starting to wonder, is Karis LeVert somebody we want on this team as well? Because Karis LeVert's a very nice basketball player. He's getting you like 15 points a game. He's good at it, kind of like being a secondary creator. And what I mean by that is when he catches the ball, he rips towards the hoop or something like that. He keeps the offense going because he's a good passer. He can handle the rock a little bit, right? Like, but he doesn't need the ball right away to start a possession, which is a very nice thing. But he's also not the best three-point shooter. He's got moments of it, but he's still on the season like a 32% three-point shooter, and towards the end of the season here, he wasn't very good at all. So with 1 year left in the contract, I've got some ideas for what we can turn that into to try and make this just a better overall basketball team, but we'll have to explore it a little bit. Got guys like Max Strus. I would love to keep him around. I just think Max Strus is a really nice player. Emob has a team option. I'm just going to spoil it right now for you guys. We're going to be picking that up. Georges Niang is probably a guy that we could look to trade. He even fell out of the rotation sometimes in playoffs. And like somebody would like Niang. He is a good shooter at the end of the day. And he plays solid defense. He's a physical guy. He's a tough guy. Like he's willing to scrap with people on the court. Absolutely love it. Dean Wade. Really like him as a stretch option, especially when you have Jared Allen and Mobley on the team, because as soon as you take one of these guys out, it makes a ton of sense to be able to put a stretch big in that's still got some height. So I like Dean Wade for the team. I put Ricky Rubio on here because on most places it'll show that he's still like under contract for this team, and he technically is, but from everything that I've looked into, because he's like semi-retired, it looks like they're going to be able to get like waived of that the roster spot, but then also the salary on here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that more so than anything and just kind of take him off for now, but just wanted to acknowledge that it's a thing. So with that, we've got Ty Jerome. Got no reason that I need to trade him. He's still under contract for this year. Sam Merrill, these didn't move with me, but non-guaranteed contract. I would like to guarantee his contract. It's just nice to have a shooter on the team. He did look a little overwhelmed in the playoffs and everything, but he is a really, really good shooter. So it's just nice to have that as a reserve option on the team. And Craig Porter Jr., technically, his contract isn't guaranteed either, but man, Craig Porter had some moments for this team this year. And like, let's try and build on that, right? Like, he wasn't perfect by any means, but he had some really effective moments when guys like either Garland or Mitchell were down this year. So let's make it a goal to try and develop him this offseason into the true backup point guard to whatever else we're doing on this team. So I want to guarantee his contract as well. And what does that leave us with? That leaves us with 4 roster spots. So again, I want to emphasize, I want to keep this team competitive. I don't think it's worth tearing down. You've got guys like Donovan Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Jared Allen. But look, if these guys don't want to play together and it doesn't make a ton of sense for them to play together, like strategically as well, I'm okay with trading those guys. And it's hard because you don't like to trade guys like this. And so I have to look at both of these guys and be like, okay, who's more important to keep? And I think the pretty obvious option is Donovan Mitchell. He is a phenomenal player. In most years, he'd be in an MVP-like conversation. He kind of was for points of this season. So I think we're probably going to look to move Garland. Mitchell will probably slide over to just like the starting point guard, kind of like what he did at Utah at points. And I think that there's a pretty obvious move to make with Garland to where it's not very complicated. It benefits both teams. And I want to attack it before the actual draft because I think that's something you could sell to the other team to be like, hey, do this now so that you can prep for the draft and kind of know what you need to draft there, because it's a complicated draft. And this is a year where you can get impactful, like maybe role players to come in like right away. And so this takes us to Fanspo, everybody's favorite thing. And as you can see, like the Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland trades are already starting to be trending on here. So let's take ourselves to Cleveland, and I'm sure you guys somewhat know where I'm going with this. We're going to bring up the New Orleans Pelicans. There's been a lot of talk of Brandon Ingram being on the move, and I've been kind of shutting down a lot of those rumors. I know that they're saying, like, yep, we're going to be looking to shop him and everything, but it's like, who are you going to get back that's, like, better and, like, really worth it? Brandon Ingram is an incredibly rare type of talent at, like, his height, length, like, the things he can do with the basketball, his passing ability, his shot creation, all very valuable. Does it make a ton of sense to have him next to Zion Williamson? Well, that's yet to kind of be determined, right? And so that's where you get into other questions. But I think in this case, there can be a really easy swap just right here. Like, we literally just do this right here, just Brandon Ingram, Darius Garland. Their contracts are identical. for the most part. And in this, keep in mind, Brandon Ingram would be signing an extension too. Like it'd most likely be more so a sign and trade or whatever. But I think that this makes sense for both teams. Just you don't need to complicate it. They're relatively the same like level of player in the sense that like they're both kind of like that borderline all-star. I know Garland's made an all-star team. I don't think Brandon Ingram has. Maybe he has. I don't really remember. But you look at these two guys and it's just going to be something that's agreed upon that's like, okay, this is probably the easiest move we can make and it's going to benefit both teams. You look at the Pelicans and you go, okay, we've been looking for that point guard option, that guy that can be the facilitator, kind of run the offense, which Garland has wanted to do. He can create his own shot. He's a really good passer. Play him with Zion. It makes a ton of sense. They're a really good fit together. You bring Brandon Ingram over to Cleveland where they've been struggling to fill the wing position. I think that makes a lot of sense. You also take into account that you could have a super long, really strong defensive basketball team with that. And that's where I think it could be really interesting. And now you could talk about the fit of Brandon Ingram playing with like Emob and Jared Allen. And you're like, do we have enough spacing on this team? But here's the thing. If you're trading Darius Garland, there's only so many players out there that are going to keep you at a relatively similar level of competitiveness. And like there's the McCall Bridges out there, but here's the thing, like the contracts are really hard to make work with that trade because McCall Bridges really doesn't make a ton of money. And so I just think it gets complicated. You have to include like probably like a first round pick or something like that. And maybe like some other people like from the Nets, and then they're going to want other players or something too, right? I just think that's too complicated. I just think this is easy. Like this is easy. And I think that it's probably beneficial for both players to be on the opposite team. So we're going to go through and we're going to trade Brandon Ingram over here to Cleveland. So we're going to change this to Brandon Ingram. Again, just assume that there's a contract extension kind of taking place here. And this is what I want to do. So we're going to swap you here. Who do I want to do? I just want to put Karis LeVert here for the time being. I think that's a fine option. So Sam Merrill slides up here. We move him here. Georges, you can move down. Strus, this is where you'll go. And then we get to move Brandon Ingram into our starting five. And so, interesting, right? Obviously, you could put Strus here or something like that. That probably makes some sense to have some more spacing or something. But I still want to make more moves for this team. I want to trade Karis LeVert as well now. I've got an idea for a move that I think adds an interesting amount of depth to the team. It also makes the team a little bit more expensive. But you know what? We got to do what we got to do. I'm trying to build this team and Donovan Mitchell into just the ultimate defensive unit around Donovan Mitchell. And that's just what I want to do. I want length. I want perimeter defense. I want post defense. That's all the stuff I want. And I think that we can accomplish this. So here's what we're going to do. I'm actually going to include a third team in the trade just so we can kind of keep track of everything and make sure the numbers are still working. Somebody suggested that in the comments, so thank you for doing that because it doesn't like save your transactions on Fanspo, so I figured that this was a good way to go about it. So here's what I want to do. I want to bring the Atlanta Hawks into the mix now, and here's what I want to do. I want to send Karis LeVert over to the Atlanta Hawks, and the guy that I want to bring back is DeAndre Hunter. And now here's the logic behind this move right here. The Hawks, I'm presuming that they're going to blow some stuff up this offseason. That's my thought at least. They've made it clear that they're like, okay, well, look, we're going to explore the DeJounte Murray and Trae Young trades. Like, it's just is what it is. I know there's some Hawks fans out there that don't necessarily want to hear that or whatever, and maybe it won't happen, right? Maybe they just won't be able to make it work because there's not going to be a great Trae Young market or whatever, and if that's the case, yeah, you just got to keep him. But they don't win with the current team that they have, and they've got a ton of money locked up over the next couple seasons. Trading for Karis LeVert gives them a guy that can still be very competitive for them, but also will give them more immediate cap flexibility, right? It saves them a little bit of money in just this trade alone, but also Karis LeVert's a free agent at the end of the year. They can start making other roster moves to kind of better fit the team. Atlanta's also not a team that makes a ton of money each year. They usually struggle to fill their stadium at points, and so any money that they can save, especially when you're in the different cap spaces that they are, because they're a very expensive basketball team, ends up saving them a ton of money. And DeAndre Hunter just like he's an impactful player for the most part. Let's take a look at DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter, when he entered the NBA, you were like, yeah, you're going to get like exactly what you're going to get out of him, and he'll probably never really get better from what he is, and that's fine because he's like an NBA starter level player. But, and that's just kind of what he's been. It's been awesome. Like, he gets you 15, 16 points a game, shoots pretty well from three, which is awesome. Plays really good perimeter defense, can slide into the post and play some defense a little bit. Just a really nice, solid basketball player. So I think bringing him into Cleveland and having him as like a reserve off the bench as like a super six man is epic, right? Like we take on a little bit more money, and I should run this trade to make sure that this actually all goes through. Yeah, okay, so this makes sense. Do we need to sweeten the pot at all? Because is DeAndre Hunter better than Karis LeVert? I think that's kind of the question, right? Like we're taking on a lot of money for them, and that's where I think, because DeAndre Hunter is probably better than Karis LeVert, and like they're different players, but I don't think I need to sweeten the pot even with like any more like picks or anything like that, just because it's like, okay, look, we're taking the money on for you. And if you want to make an argument that one of the second round picks or something should go, there's no way it's anything more than that. Like, fair enough, take one of the second round picks or something like that. I don't care. But I think that this is where I want to go with this. So this becomes DeAndre Hunter. All right, DeAndre Hunter. And so we don't have you anymore. I'm going to assume that this is Max Strus now, and you're going to become DeAndre Hunter off the bench. Okay, so the team obviously has gotten a little more expensive now, but we also have this team locked up for a while now. That's awesome. By the way, we assume that Donovan Mitchell is going to get an extension, right? That's another part of this whole equation that I just don't need to talk about. It's not that important. Where are our weaknesses now after this? We've kind of got an unnecessary maybe rotation player in Georges Niang. Is there a way that we can pair him with a Ty Jerome in a trade to make something happen? And now this is a lot of trades I'm making right now. I normally don't do this many in an ideal offseason, but I think that like Cleveland's got a lot of little pieces that you can move, and there's logical people around that can make this stuff happen. Like I truly think that these are all realistic moves at the end of the day. So now I think what I want to do is I want to go to the draft. I want to use my 20th draft pick and try to fill a hole. And that way we can look at Georges Niang and say, okay, like what else do we need after that? Because I'm not sure exactly what I'd want to get for him, plus maybe a Ty Jerome. So let's go to the draft, see what we end up with there, and then we can see if we need to make another move. Alrighty, so we're here on Fanspo again. They've got a really nice tool for us to use in the mock draft simulator. It's got the current draft order and everything. It's a really cool thing. The reason that I use this is I think it adds a sense of realism to it, because otherwise I'd just be looking at mock drafts and being like, I think this guy will be available with this pick, so that's who I'm going to pick. This adds a little bit more sense of the randomness of the NBA draft that can happen, so I want to explore that a little bit. I can't believe Donovan Clingan went 13th there. That made no sense to me whatsoever, but things happen. And so we have the 20th pick. I'm very curious to see who's going to be available. I've got some people that I'd like to get, and Kel'el Ware is available. I've taken Kel'el Ware in a lot of drafts, and I don't think this is going to be any different. I like Kel'el Ware because I see he at least has starter level potential in the NBA. And I think that this is what this draft is about. Like, I just don't think the star power is very present. I'm actually going to probably do a video on it at some point, comparing this to like is it the 2013 draft class? Is that the really bad one? To just be like, yeah, look, but there's some solid players that can come out of here, and just kind of compare the two whatsoever. But anyway, Kel'el Ware, nice defensive player. Like I'll even bring up his info and everything so you guys can look at it. But really nice defensive player, can be a shot blocker, good athlete, has shown the ability to step out and hit a three, right? Like he's really like made a big jump from his freshman to sophomore season. I think he's at least an NBA caliber player. And also just drafting size, like a 7-footer that you think can contribute, very valuable, because 7-footers are tough to find, and we already got a couple good ones on the team. So bringing another guy that we could kind of develop, I think that's awesome. We could always just have a ton of size on the court at all times, and that's what I want to do around Donovan Mitchell. I just want to have size. So yeah, with that and our only draft pick in this year's class, we are going to be taking Kel'el Ware. Yeah, no, I feel like I've drafted Kel'el Ware a lot in recent videos, and that's just because he always tends to be available around like the 15th to 20th pick, and those are just kind of the teams I've happened to do recently. So that just is what it is. But anyway, Kel'el Ware comes in and becomes our backup center, which is also awesome because there's just not a ton of centers on the market this summer. There's the Nick Claxtons, who I feel like his value is going to be inflated like a ton, because every team that wants a center is going to want him, because it's really just him and like Valanciunas, who's kind of just like a option, who I like Valanciunas, but it's like I said, it's an option. Those are like the only two names available, and then it kind of just drops to like Andre Drummond, Mason Plumlee, who again are nice contributors, but I don't want to hand them the starter keys by any means. So I think being able to draft our backup center, and this is a good draft to do it because there's a lot of solid ones, I think it makes a ton of sense for us. So I'm going to take away this pick here so we don't have that resource anymore. We've got these picks here going forward to work with. We've got 3 roster spots left, and we've got a definite weakness at the shooting guard. I feel okay at the point guard, like Donovan Mitchell, and then hopefully Craig Porter, who thankfully has a little bit of size as well. He's like 6'3", and he's got some playmaking abilities, which I like as a backup point guard. Where can I upgrade the shooting guard position? How can I do that? Let's just take, for example, let's do Georges Niang plus a Ty Jerome, right? Like, those are 2 players that I would be willing to trade. That gives me about $11 million to work with in a deal. This would take us into the first apron, but look, y'all, we're trying to win, and we got a good team already. We got Donovan Mitchell, we got Brandon Ingram, we got our 2 shot creators, right? Jared Allen showed that he can, if you give the ball to him in the post, make things happen. If Evan Mobley isn't going to become the offensive player we think, and he's just going to be an awesome defensive option for us, cool. We've got our defensive just like juggernauts right here. Like, ton of length, really hard to score on these dudes. Awesome, right? And we got our go-to number 1 guy scorer. Like, all the hard stuff's done. And not to mention as well, we got DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench right now too. This team is loaded. It's absolutely loaded. It doesn't even need to be like this is kind of like a Minnesota Timberwolves-esque comparison. You just got your one dude, and then you got like your other just dudes around you. You know, like, that's kind of what I'm saying. This is like an improved version of the Timberwolves, just trying to build a super defense around like your one really good scorer, and then you've got a supplementary scorer. Look at Brandon Ingram as the Karl Anthony Towns. I like that. But anyway, we got $11 million. I think this is the most trades I've done in a Kel'el, or I was going to say Kel'el, Ware in an ideal offseason. So I want to think about who it is that we can bring in to make this happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look here. I need to sort this by the 2024, 2025 numbers. Let's take a look at guys that we can get for $11 million and under and say, is there a guy that we can bring in? Like, Dante DiVincenzo would be awesome. No way they're trading that dude ever, right? Like, ooh, Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann is very interesting. Like, let's think about this from the Clippers' perspective for just a second. Let's just say Paul George doesn't come back. My bet is that Paul George goes back to the Clippers. That's just my guess. But they need to make some adjustments to the team, right? I just want to take a look at the Clippers roster real quick to be like, okay, is it worth them taking on those players for us? Do they have guys that can take the place of Terrence Mann? And I look at it like guys like Bones probably getting more minutes next year because Russell Westbrook's gone, right? Like a Kobe Brown, like he's a forward more so. Like Amir Coffey's not taking those minutes. I don't know. There's not a great reason for them to trade Terrence Mann unless otherwise they're trying to make things more flexible for themselves going forward, because like Georges Niang's got 2 years left on his contract. They really don't need like a 4 necessarily, so maybe that's not the move. I don't know. I liked that fit, and so maybe we'll come back to it, but it doesn't necessarily stick out to me right away as something that makes a ton of sense. Is there any way I can bring Jordan Clarkson back onto the Cavaliers? Is that something that I can accomplish? Because I like the idea of having like a scoring bench guy as well. We could have like a New York Knicks level depth thing right here. Let me explore this a little bit, because Utah probably is looking to move him still, like if they can get some assets for him. But is this something that we can like rationally do is another question, because Jordan Clarkson, is he worth a first round pick at this point? Probably debatable, but does it make sense for them to go get a Georges Niang? Like they need wings / forwards, so like positionally, yes, it makes a lot of sense for them. Does it make sense contract wise? It helps bring down their cap number a little bit. I know they're already under the cap, but it brings it down even more. Maybe gives them the flexibility. I don't know. It doesn't make like a ton of sense just player-wise to do it. We could spam them with like second-round picks, but I feel like they've got enough draft picks, so maybe not. I really want to explore this Terrence Mann option. I really, really do. I wanna figure out if there's a way to make this happen. Like, you throw Georges Niang on the team, what does that do for the Clippers, right? Like, you look at their roster, what are they kind of rolling out next season? They're rolling out a lineup most likely of James Harden. Who's playing the two for them? It'd normally be Terrence Mann, so they don't have an option there. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think I can rationally say that that's a move that they would go and make, because I feel like Terrence Mann plays a valuable position for them that they don't have a lot of help at. Kevin Huerter. Is there any way we can make a Kevin Huerter deal take place? Because he's got 2 years left. If we can absorb the cap room somehow, maybe we can make this happen. Kevin Huerter would be an upgrade for us at the 2 guard position. We don't need Georges Niang. We could try to make the money work somehow. What do they get out of it? They get another stretch forward. Like let me just like rationally take a look at this and see if this is something, because Kevin Huerter's like value isn't like crazy high because he kind of had a shitty season. Obviously Malik Monk probably going to be back with them. They got Venzikov, they got Duarte that they could go to if need be. So they've got it like positionally kind of covered if they need to, especially because they got guys like Harrison Barnes and like Keegan Murray can play the wing if needed. So they can do it. Do they need a Georges Niang though? I don't necessarily think so. So I don't think that one's going to work either. This is a little more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Is there a way that I can build upon this trade to end up with Bogdan Bogdanovic as well, is my question. Like, let's say we move him over to Cleveland. Like, what happens then? This is a failed trade. I need to cut that $16.2 million. Okay, fair enough. Do I have any trade exceptions? I have no trade exceptions to work with. So let's just say hypothetically, Georges Niang, what would be the logic behind this too? So Bogdanovic, same situation, right? They're trying to free up money sooner. We'd save them a ton of cap space. This is all what it's doing. They're trying to tear down the team, acquire some assets, right? So Georges Niang would head over to the Hawks. Let's just say as well that we have to do like Ty Jerome. We also trade him to the Hawks. Like, what happens now? Is this something that we can accomplish? This is something that we can accomplish. Hold the phone. Okay, so what's the logic now? Because we just took 2 solid players from them. We saved them a ton of cap room. We've got to give them like a handful of like 2nd-round picks or something too, right? They're not getting a 1st-round pick for Bogdanovic. We presume that they're tearing the team down. So is this something I can reasonably say could happen? Like, maybe. I struggle when like these names are being moved, but like I just think that the Hawks would want to tear this down. I feel like if they were losing both Hunter and Bogdanovic, do we think that we could say that they'd probably want a 1st-round pick? Probably. So is there a way that we can kind of work with the Pelicans to make that adjustment? Because you might be able to say Darius Garland, better player than Brandon Ingram. Maybe. It's hard to say. So is there a way that we can move one of these picks over to like Atlanta and we can supplement New Orleans with like 2nd-round picks? Let's think about this. The Pelicans have like no 2nd-round picks going forward, and that's kind of interesting because like 2nd-round picks are a nice thing to kind of like help facilitate the end parts of trades, right? So that could be an asset that they want to have because they have a decent amount of 1st-rounders, and like, do they really need like 2 picks here? Probably not. Like, they've got 2 picks in this year's draft, so is it worth them moving like the Lakers pick or their maybe even their own pick this season to make that happen? I think that you could probably say like the Hawks are like, hey, give us this future 1st-round pick or something like that. This Milwaukee one, move it over to the Hawks, right? They get their 1st-round pick that they're looking for moving DeAndre Hunter and Bogdan Bogdanovic, which, does that make some sense? Like, it's hard to say. Like, these guys really aren't like 1st-round players, and when they're taking on a lot of money. So you know what? I don't feel good about that, actually. I think that we should just shoot them over some seconds, and I think that that's where it's gonna lie. Like, they can have both of our 2025 picks. The 2025 draft class is valuable. They can use that to move up if need be. We're gonna shoot over both of our 2025 2nd-round picks to them. We're not interested in them anyway, and that's what's going to complete the trade for us. So Georges Niang is now Bogdan Bogdanovic over here. That's awesome, and Ty Jerome is no longer on this basketball team. So we have made this team incredibly, incredibly expensive now, but we've got some more options on the team. We don't need Georges Niang on this team anymore. I'm going to move Max Strus. I'm going to move him to the backup just for the time being, just so I can show all the pretty moves that I made here. So Bogdan Bogdanovic now in the starting lineup. We've got shooting, we've got scoring, we have a hell a lot of defense. Awesome. Now we have 4 roster spots left that we can use on minimum contract guys to fill out the rest of this roster. We're going to end up in the first apron. That's okay. So let's go figure out who those guys are. Oh, snap, something I didn't even think about. Isaac Okoro is a restricted free agent. That's something that we can work with as well. Is Isaac Okoro the missing piece to that Hawks trade? He might just be. Like, is that something we want to go back and visit and say that, like, Isaac Okoro is being moved in this? Yeah, you know what? We can say hypothetically to make ourselves feel better. Like, let me go back to this. See, this is the beauty of spreadsheets. I can just go back and back and back. There we go, and we now have our second round picks back. That's perfect. I'm going to say that Okoro was part of a sign-in trade that went back to the Hawks as a young player that they can kind of develop. He replaces that position that they need, and that's what we ended up doing. I want to make sure we can actually, like, do this as well. So let's assume Okoro's getting, like, 14-ish million, something like this. Let's just say that that's kind of the hypothetical, because what was he this season? Like 9 points a game, played good defense, shot well from 3. 15 million is probably a fair assumption. So let's say that that's been updated. Does this trade still happen? It failed. And why is that? They need to cut somebody else. Why is that? Oh, did I not trade him over? Is that what happened? My bad. Okay, let's try this out now. Okay, now it's a success. Okay, Isaac Okoro goes in, helps them improve and everything. That makes me feel a ton better. Now they actually, like, got some players that can come in and contribute to. They've got a young player that they can kind of develop while also saving a little bit of salary and everything. So this makes a lot more sense. I feel a lot better about this. All right, so now we're back here. We still have our second round pick. Sorry for making you guys go through all that. That was interesting to say the least, but I feel a lot better about that. That makes a lot more sense to me now. So you guys better not be in the comment section already. If I see something like that and you guys didn't watch the whole video, I'm gonna flame you in the comments. I'm probably not gonna do that. I try not to be confrontational in the comments. Some people take some of the stuff I say as confrontational in there. I'm genuinely just trying to talk with you guys and figure it out. Just because I challenge your opinion doesn't mean it's a bad thing. So just calm the hell down. All right. Is there anybody I want to bring back from this last team? Like, is it worth bringing back a Marcus Morris Sr.? I honestly think that could be a decent thing, just to have a guy like that on the team. I'm not mad about that at all. Can I bring Marcus Morris Sr. back on a minimum contract? I'm going to do that. Marcus Morris, that's how much money he would get on his minimum contract. He can slide in beautifully right there. Okay, we got 3 roster spots left. Ty Jerome is not one of them. What do we need in these last 3 roster spots? Another point guard would be nice. If we could find another point guard to fill this in, that would be good. Getting another just reserve tall person, that's awesome. And then sure, we'll find another wing. We'll make it really, really balanced this time. Okay, so we're going to go back to Spot Track here and take a look at these things positionally. Let's try and figure out the point guard first. You know who I like in this spot right here actually is Cam Payne. Just because, like, looking at, like, our other point guard option in Craig Porter, I don't see him as maybe an explosive as a scorer, even though he had moments of it. And I look at the rest of the bench and there's not, like, a potential explosive scorer. And I know Cam Payne is Cam Payne at the end of the day, but I like the idea of bringing him in. He's a little bit smaller. That's okay, but he's got, like, some offensive potential. And I think we're kind of missing a little bit of that in our reserves right now. So I want to go out and get myself some Cam Payne. We'll throw Cam Payne as the 3rd right now because we're hoping that Craig Porter becomes our backup. point guard, but I think this is fine for now. I feel pretty good about this. Let's go find a reserve center now for us. Let's go to center. Who are we gonna find to kind of take up this last spot? Like a Daniel Tice could be interesting because I want veteran guys on the team. Is a Mason Plumlee? Probably not, because he's probably not going to get the PT that he necessarily wants. Is it worth just bringing Tristan Thompson back? I mean, he's on the team every goddamn season, right? I mean, it's at least something to explore. Tristan Thompson's kind of a nice bully to have on the team, too. Having him and Marcus Morris as like your reserve forwards is kind of tough. So you know what? Hell, let's bring Tristan Thompson back, man. I know it's not height, but I think we got enough height on this team. So give me Tristan Thompson. He would be getting the exact same contract that Marcus Morris gets. 1 season. There's Tristan Thompson. Okay, now I just got to find a reserve forward, and I'm going to feel really, really good about this offseason. Like, really, really good. Like, Joe Ingles. Is Joe Ingles going to be, like, they're not bringing Joe Ingles back on this, so, like, that could be an option for us. Royce O'Neal, probably not. He's going to end up back in Phoenix, most likely. I could go get Markieff Morris and just round out the Morris twins, bring them back together for one last ride. That could be kind of fun. Oh, you know who I want? I want Kenyon Martin Jr. That's who I want, because let's bring in a little more youth and a little more athleticism to this team, because if there's one thing this team is missing, it's kind of like athleticism, right? Like Donovan Mitchell, very athletic. You lose some athleticism in these guys. Not athletic at all, shooting guard position. But this is good. We're building a playoff team right now. This is a playoff style team. Brandon Ingram's got some athleticism. DeAndre Hunter, they're both kind of They play at slower paces. Emo, like, pretty good athlete, all said and done. Not many athletes here. So let's get an athlete on the team in Kenyon Martin Jr. My sheet had him as KJ Martin, so that's what he is. What year is he's going to be a 5th-year player, so we go grab the 5th-year number here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We throw him here. We have a little bit of athleticism on the team. 1-year contract, and we're done. How much did we go into the second apron? Okay, we did go into the second apron, but look, oh my goodness, we're trying to win a championship and stuff. We're trying to be competitive. We're trying to put a good team out there, and I think that this is a pretty good one. This is probably the most extreme ideal offseason that I've done, but they're talking about trading Darius Garland. It's going to get crazy. I think that this is the best team that Donovan Mitchell could probably have around him in this next season. This is a really good starting lineup. Like, all of these dudes could get you 20 each night. And then off the bench, you got Craig Porter or Cameron Payne. We're hoping Craig Porter becomes that dude for us on the cheap. You got Max Strus off the bench. Sam Merrill's an option. He's played playoff minutes. DeAndre Hunter, 15, 16 points a game. Efficient player, 3-and-D guy off the bench. Awesome. We got length. We got defense. Dean Wade, we got our stretch big on the team, and we got our rookie. You got to have a rookie for everybody to cheer for off the bench. Kel'el Ware, waiting in the wings to make things happen. And we still have 2nd-round picks. We don't have any 1st-round picks going forward. Those are gone now, but we used one of them, so that's awesome. I feel good about this team. It's expensive, but you know what? It's cool. I like it. I'd be interested to see this team play next year. This has got New York Knicks level depth, and that's what I want to go for. I want defense and I want depth. I think we got that. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. This was an interesting one for me. Definitely one of the more complicated ones, and it always gets more complicated with the better teams. But let me know in the comments below. I'm sure you guys will, and I'm sure some of you guys are going to yell at me like you always do. But you know what? I'm here for the... I tapped my microphone. I'm so sorry about that. I didn't mean to hit you guys. I'm always down for the conversation. I hit it again. Okay, I need to go now. All right, thanks so much. Bye.